I was invited for Christmas, but treated like I didn't belong, so I left. The invitation came in October, tucked inside a birthday card I hadn't expected to receive. We'd love to have you join us for Christmas this year. It's been too long. Please come. The handwriting was my sister Karen's, looped and careful, the way she used to write notes to our mother when she wanted something. I held the card in my hands for a long time, standing in my tiny kitchen with its peeling linoleum and the persistent drip from the faucet I couldn't afford to fix. It had been 8 years since I'd seen my family. 8 years since I'd been told, in no uncertain terms, that I was no longer welcome. I need to tell you how I got there. How I ended up 34 years old, working double shifts at a grocery store, living in a one-bedroom apartment that smelled like the fish market downstairs, and receiving an invitation that felt more like a summons than a gesture of love. When I was 19, I got pregnant. The father was a boy I'd known from high school, someone I thought cared about me. He didn't. When I told him, he said it wasn't his problem and that I should take care of it. When I said I couldn't, he stopped answering my calls. I told my mother first. She cried, but not the way you cry when you're sad for someone. She cried the way you cry when you've been personally wronged. My father wouldn't look at me. My sister Karen, who was 22 and newly engaged to a lawyer, pulled me aside and said, "You're going to ruin everything. Do you understand that? Everything we've built." I didn't understand what she meant. We weren't wealthy. We lived in a modest 3-bedroom house. My parents both worked. What was there to ruin? But I came to understand. The shame. The judgment from their church friends. The whispers at family gatherings. The humiliation of having a daughter who'd gotten herself into trouble. They gave me a choice, though it wasn't really a choice. Get an abortion, or leave. I couldn't go through with the abortion. I don't judge anyone who does, but something in me couldn't. So I left. I moved into a shelter first, then a subsidized housing unit with 2 other young mothers. I worked at a gas station until my daughter was born, then at the grocery store because the hours were more predictable and they had a daycare program. I named her Maya. She had my eyes and her father's dimples, and she was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. My family didn't come to the hospital. They didn't send a card. Karen called once, 3 months after Maya was born, and said, "If you'd just done the right thing, you could have come home by now. It's not too late." But it was too late. I had a daughter, and I would have walked through fire before I gave her up or pretended she didn't exist. The years that followed were hard in ways I still don't have words for. There were nights I fed Maya and skipped dinner myself. Mornings I dropped her at daycare with a smile while my body screamed from exhaustion. Christmases where we decorated a small tree I'd gotten from the discount lot, and I wrapped presents I'd found at thrift stores, and we were happy because we had each other. I learned how to stretch a dollar. How to fix things with duct tape and YouTube tutorials. How to swallow my pride and accept help from the food bank. How to keep going when every part of me wanted to collapse. Maya was brilliant. By the time she was 5, she was reading chapter books. By 7, she was doing math problems I had to look up online to help her with. She was kind, too. She shared her snacks with other kids at school, even when we barely had enough. She drew me pictures and taped them to the fridge and told me I was the best mom in the world. I never told her why we didn't see my family. I just said they lived far away and we didn't visit much. She accepted it the way children accept all the strange truths of their world. But it hollowed me out, that distance. Not because I missed my parents or Karen exactly, but because Maya deserved grandparents who loved her. She deserved aunts and uncles and cousins. She deserved the big family gatherings I'd had as a child, before I became the family embarrassment. I carried that grief quietly. I didn't talk about it, even to the few friends I had. I just kept working, kept showing up, kept being Maya's mom. That was enough. It had to be enough. Then, 2 years ago, Maya was diagnosed with leukemia. The doctors caught it early, they said. The treatment would be aggressive, but her prognosis was good. I nodded and smiled at Maya and held her hand, and when we got home, I locked myself in the bathroom and sobbed until I couldn't breathe. The treatment was brutal. Chemotherapy that left her weak and nauseous. Hospital stays that stretched for days. Bills that piled up despite the insurance I had through work, which covered almost nothing. I took on extra shifts when she was stable enough for me to work. I borrowed money from friends. I set up a fundraising page online that raised $800. It wasn't enough. It was never enough. I thought about reaching out to my family then. I thought about calling Karen or my mother and saying, "Maya is sick. We need help." But I couldn't. The last time Karen had spoken to me, she'd said I'd ruined everything. What would she say now? That I'd gotten what I deserved. So I handled it alone. Maya and me against the world, the way it had always been. She went into remission 6 months ago. The doctors said it was a success. We celebrated with ice cream and a movie, and Maya said, "I knew we'd be okay, Mom. You always figure it out." I smiled and told her I loved her, and I didn't tell her that I'd nearly broken under the weight of it all. That some nights I'd sat in my car in the hospital parking lot and screamed until my voice gave out. That I'd thought about what would happen to her if I just stopped, if I couldn't keep going. But I did keep going. Because that's what you do. The invitation arrived 3 weeks after Maya's last clear scan. I stared at it for days. I didn't know what to make of it. Why now? Why after 8 years of silence? I called Karen. She answered on the third ring, her voice bright and cheerful. "Oh my God, you got the card. I'm so glad. We've been wanting to reach out for so long, but we didn't know if you'd want to hear from us." I almost laughed. "You didn't know if I'd want to hear from you?" "Well, you know how it is. Things got complicated. But Mom and Dad are getting older, and we've all been talking about how important family is. We really want you to come for Christmas. Bring Maya, too, of course. We'd love to meet her." There was something in her voice I couldn't place, a warmth that felt rehearsed. But I wanted to believe it. God, I wanted to believe it. "Why now?" I asked. "Does it matter? We're family. We should be together." I agreed to come. I don't know why. Maybe because I wanted Maya to have what I'd lost. Maybe because I was tired of carrying the hurt alone. Maybe because some part of me still hoped that they'd changed, that time had softened them. I bought us both new outfits for the trip. Nothing fancy, but clean and presentable. I wanted Maya to make a good impression. I wanted them to see what a wonderful person she was, how smart and kind and resilient. The drive to my parents' house took 3 hours. Maya chattered the whole way, excited and nervous. "What if they don't like me?" she asked at one point. "They'll love you," I said. "How could they not?" When we pulled up to the house, I felt a strange tightness in my chest. It looked the same. Same brick facade, same blue shutters, same tree in the front yard where I used to climb as a kid. Karen answered the door. She looked older, more polished. Her hair was professionally styled, and she wore an expensive-looking sweater. She smiled when she saw me, but it didn't reach her eyes. "You made it. Come in, come in. It's freezing out there." We stepped inside. The house smelled like pine and cinnamon, the way it always had at Christmas. There was a massive tree in the living room, decorated with ornaments I recognized from my childhood. My mother appeared from the kitchen, wiping her hands on a towel. She looked at me, then at Maya, and her expression flickered with something I couldn't name. "Hello," she said. Not "I've missed you" or "I'm so glad you're here." Just, "Hello." My father was in his chair, reading the newspaper. He glanced up, nodded once, and went back to his paper. "This is Maya," I said, putting my hand on my daughter's shoulder. Karen bent down and smiled at her. "Hi, Maya. I'm your Aunt Karen. We're so excited to have you here." Maya smiled back, shy but pleased. It started small. We were assigned the guest room in the basement. It was cold and smelled faintly of mildew, but I didn't say anything. I unpacked our bags and told Maya we'd be comfortable. At dinner that night, the table was crowded. Karen's husband, Dan, and their 3 kids. My uncle and aunt. My cousin Jenna and her fiancé. Everyone talking and laughing, passing dishes, filling their plates. Maya and I sat at the far end of the table. No one asked her about school or her interests. No one asked me how I'd been. When I tried to join the conversation, Karen's husband talked over me, launching into a story about their recent vacation to Europe. Maya looked at me, confused. I squeezed her hand under the table. After dinner, the kids went to play in the living room. Maya followed, hopeful, but when she tried to join in, Karen's oldest daughter said, "We're playing a family game. You wouldn't understand the rules." I saw Maya's face fall. I stood up to go to her, but Karen caught my arm. "Let them work it out," she said. "Kids need to learn to socialize." The next day was worse. Karen took her kids and Maya to get hot chocolate while I helped my mother in the kitchen. I thought it might be a chance to talk, to reconnect. But my mother was quiet, her movements stiff and deliberate. Finally, I said, "Mom, I've missed you." She didn't look at me. "It's been a long time." "I know. I'm sorry You made your choices," she said. "We all have to live with our choices." I felt something crack inside me. I made the choice to keep my daughter. That's what I chose. She set down the knife she was holding, and we had to live with the consequences. Do you know what it was like for us? At church, in the neighborhood? The questions, the judgment. I was 19, I said. I needed you. You needed to think about your family, she said. Not just yourself. I walked out of the kitchen before I said something I couldn't take back. On Christmas Eve, we exchanged gifts. Karen's kids opened elaborate presents. New iPads, designer clothes, expensive toys. Maya opened the small box I'd given her, a necklace with her birthstone that I'd saved for months to buy. She smiled and hugged me, but I saw her glance at the pile of gifts under the tree. When it came time for the family to exchange gifts, there was nothing for Maya. And nothing for me. Karen laughed, a little too brightly. Oh, we didn't know what you'd like. We can go shopping together later and you can pick something out. But her kids had gifts from every adult in the room. There were tags with their names on boxes I'd watched everyone open. Maya whispered, Mom, did we forget to bring presents for everyone? No, honey, I said. We brought wine and dessert. Remember? She nodded, but I could see the hurt in her eyes. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in the cold basement room, listening to Maya's soft breathing beside me, and I understood. This wasn't reconciliation. This wasn't an olive branch. This was a performance. Karen wanted to play the role of the generous sister, the one who'd forgiven me. My parents wanted to feel magnanimous, like they'd done their duty by inviting me. But they didn't want us. Not really. We were reminders of their shame, their failure, the messy reality they tried to erase. Maya had been invited to be a prop, to fill a seat at the table so they could tell themselves they were good people. I thought about the years I'd spent surviving, the nights I'd worked until my feet bled, the times I'd held Maya while she cried from pain and fear during her treatment, the strength it had taken to keep going when I had nothing left. And I thought about my mother in the kitchen, talking about her consequences, about Karen's polished smile that never reached her eyes, about my father, who hadn't said more than 10 words to me since I arrived. They hadn't changed. They never would. And I was done waiting for their approval. On Christmas morning, I packed our bags while everyone was at church. I left the wine and dessert on the counter. I didn't take anything that wasn't ours. Maya watched me, confused. Are we leaving? Yes, I said. Why? I knelt down so I could look her in the eyes. Because we don't need to stay somewhere that makes us feel small. Because we deserve better than this. Because you deserve better. But they're family, she said. Family is supposed to make you feel loved, I said. They're supposed to show up for you, to see you, to care. If they can't do that, then they're just people. And we don't owe anything to people who can't love us the way we are. She nodded slowly, and I saw understanding dawn in her eyes. We loaded the car and drove away. No one called. No one texted. We spent Christmas afternoon at a diner off the highway. Maya ordered pancakes with whipped cream, and I got coffee and pie. We played cards and made each other laugh, and it was the best Christmas I'd had in years. That night, back in our small apartment with the fish smell and the dripping faucet, Maya crawled into my lap. Mom. Yeah, baby. I'm glad it's just us. I kissed the top of her head. Me too. Karen called a week later. You just left, she said, without saying goodbye. That was incredibly rude. You didn't give us gifts, I said. You put us in a basement. You made Maya feel like she didn't belong. Oh my God, that's not. We were trying to include you. We invited you. That should have been enough. It wasn't. There was a long silence. Then she said, You've always been so difficult. You know that. So ungrateful. You invited me because you wanted to feel good about yourself, I said. Not because you actually cared. And I'm done pretending that's enough. Mom and Dad are hurt. They thought what? That I'd sit there and smile while you all made it clear I don't matter? That I'd let Maya see how little you think of us. We don't think. Yes, you do, I said. And that's fine. You're allowed to feel however you want. But so am I. And I choose not to be around people who make me feel like I'm nothing. I hung up before she could respond. I don't know if they'll reach out again. I don't know if they'll ever understand why I left. But I know this. I spent 8 years believing that I was the one who needed their forgiveness, their acceptance, their love. I was wrong. They needed mine. They needed me to absolve them of their cruelty, to pretend it had never happened, to make them feel like good people despite everything they'd done. And I won't give them that. I've spent my entire adult life surviving things that should have broken me. I've raised an incredible daughter with no help, no money, no safety net. I've worked myself to the bone and somehow kept us afloat. That doesn't make me less than them. It makes me stronger. Walking away from that house, from that table, from that cold basement room, it wasn't revenge. It wasn't even justice. It was just me, finally choosing myself. Finally choosing Maya. Finally understanding that survival isn't about enduring what people put you through. It's about knowing when to say no more. Maya asked me recently if we'll ever see them again. Maybe, I said. If they change. If they learn how to actually love us. What if they don't? Then we'll keep building our own life. Our own family. The people who actually show up for us. She smiled. I like our family. Me too, baby. Me too. And I do. I like the life we've built from nothing. I like the strength we've earned. I like the way we take care of each other, the way we choose kindness even when the world hasn't been kind to us. I don't need their table. I don't need their approval. I have something better. I have my daughter, and I have myself, and I have the knowledge that I survived everything they said would destroy me. That's not revenge. That's not justice. That's just power. The quiet, enduring kind that doesn't need an audience. The kind that lets you walk away from people who don't deserve you, close the door softly behind you, and never look back. The kind that lets you build a life worth living, on your own terms, with your own hands. That's what I have now. And it's enough. Subscribe.